Couples who called off the wedding days or hours before it happened. What triggered the decision? Tucker and I had been together for almost 4 years, engaged for 1. We were planning what I thought was our dream wedding. Nothing too fancy but still special. About 80 guests at this beautiful outdoor venue with string lights and a barn reception. I was literally so excited. Had my dress, bridesmaids all set, everything coming together. About a week before the wedding, Tucker started acting weird. Like, he was getting super particular about tiny details that he hadn't cared about before. At first I thought it was just wedding stress, because planning that shit is a lot even when you have help. But then he started making these bizarre requests. First it was wanting to change our first dance song to this random track I'd never heard before. When I asked about it, he got all vague and just said he'd heard it recently and thought it was perfect. Whatever. Then 3 days before our wedding, he casually dropped that he had asked his ex-girlfriend Zara to officiate our ceremony. Like, who does that? For context, I knew about Zara. They dated for like 2 years in college, broke up maybe a year before we met. He'd mentioned her occasionally, said they were friendly, but not really in touch. I had zero issues with her existence. We're all adults with pasts, whatever. But suddenly he's telling me she got ordained online and was excited to be part of our special day, and how meaningful it would be. I was literally speechless. When I finally found words, I asked when exactly he'd been in contact with her to arrange this. He got all defensive and said they'd reconnected a few months ago and had been catching up. I asked to see their messages, not something I'd normally do, but come on, and he refused, saying I was being bridezilla and controlling and that it was just a nice gesture between old friends. That night, I couldn't sleep. Something felt so off. The next morning, I called my maid of honor, Judy, and told her everything. She was as confused as I was. While we were talking, Tucker texted me saying Zara was driving into town that day to practice the ceremony, and could she stay with us since hotels were expensive. I literally saw red, called Tucker immediately and told him absolutely not. He got mad, said I was being unreasonable and that it was too late to find another officiant. It wasn't, our original person was still confirmed. I went to our apartment to confront him in person, found him going through old photos, including several of him and Zara. When I walked in, he quickly put them away, looking guilty F. The conversation that followed was the most bizarre thing ever. Turns out they hadn't just reconnected, they'd been talking daily for months. The song he wanted? Their song from college. And here's the kicker. He admitted he'd been confused about his feelings and thought having her officiate would help him get closure. I just stood there, trying to process that my fiancé was essentially using our wedding as some twisted therapy session with his ex. When I asked if he still had feelings for her, he couldn't give me a straight answer. Just kept saying he was committed to us, but needed this symbolic gesture to fully move on. I simply said, the wedding is off. I deserve someone who doesn't need closure from their ex at our wedding altar. He cried, begged, tried to say I was overreacting. Called my parents, who had paid for most of the wedding, to try to get them to talk sense into me. They backed me 100%. Funny enough, Zara did come to town. Tucker moved in with her temporarily after I kicked him out of our apartment. 2 months later, they were officially back together.